Yep. So, hi, Armando.
Hello.
So the Climate Academy, in the first pillar, it's all about systems understanding. And chapter 13 is on climate anxiety. And climate anxiety, in that chapter, I talk about Kafka.
Yes.
Because irony is a very powerful way to communicate some of these big system truths.
Yes.
So
yes.
Could you talk about your own work with irony and how it... Yeah.
I don't think I go into my work with a kind of set stylistic viewpoint. I just go in with an emotion.
Right.
You know, I might be angry about something or I might be confused about something. So if I'm angry about it, I want to do a story about why did that happen. If I'm confused about something, I want to do a story about how can we make this more, how can we explain this a lot more easily to people.
Right.
How can we demystify it right in front of us?
Right.
You know, so it's about that. I mean, irony is always it's a form of exaggeration, but it's based on a truth. It's always you can be ironical about a lie because the lie is in itself a kind of twisting of the truth.
Right.
You know, and irony is a twisting of the truth. So, I mean, I go in to my stories trying to make them feel accurate, as in I try and get the characters to behave like characters in reality would, say whether it's in the White House or whether it's in Stalinist Russia or whatever. But then the comedy is pushing them to breaking point.
Right.
You know? Right. Very often I found that with the death of Stalin, very often we found that the more true information we put in the film, the funnier it became.
Right. Right.
You know, there was no need to make things up.
Yeah.
Really.
And irony sort of seems to be a way in which you can handle big dark truths, because a lot of out there, you know, that's good. I mean,
and something like climate is such a kind of amorphous. It isn't one event. It's a whole spectrum of events that might take place over years. So it's very difficult to identify what the specific threat is. You know, it's hard for a viewer or a reader. So you have to go in more with characters, you know, tell a story about how it affects this person or this family or this city or whatever, I suppose. I mean, with Kafka, it's very much how it affects this K. It's always K.
Right.
So that's the centre of every, you know, so it's not about an absurd system, it's about how that absurd system affects him.
Right. And that's often one of the problems with communicating about climate change, because it's such a polycrisis, it's so complex.
Yes.
So for students to find that narrative, that line through that, which is meaningful, this is very helpful.
And sometimes, you know, you can feel pressurised into trying to address it all and every aspect of it, and that's just too much to take in. Whereas if you break it down, you know, if you talk about flooding, or if you talk about famine, or drought, or you know, then it becomes more specific.
Right.
And then, you know, individual communities can relate to that story.
And like with K, how it affects them.
How it affects them.
Which is and just
because the reason we are anxious about it is because we worry what it will do to us and our children and, you know, the next generation. So it is about the person.
Yeah. And last question, are there like limits to the use of irony? Like, when should it not be deployed? You know, what?
I think if it's done so often that you stop believing in the story because it's become so, or you get the sense that the writer or the director can now say anything.
Right.
That they've pushed beyond the limit of what's believable.
Right.
That's when I think it then starts to, it doesn't hit home as hard as it would if it felt real.
Right. Thank you very much.
Okay.